I think we have to get to a place where we can provide answers for our young people and prepare them, because those young people will also be our age not too long from now. They'll be just like us sitting in the church. We prepare them now, you won't have to worry about it later. And you'll also be able to prepare the next generation because you were prepared. So when people ask me, how do you solve this problem? I always say the same thing, and I've been writing about it for years on the website. Stop teaching. Oh my gosh, it's not that, just stop teaching. Teaching is not working. The church has been teaching for 100 years here in America, and apparently it's not working. We've got great teachers in the church, but we've got to stop teaching young people. It's doing us no good. We've got to start training. And training is different than teaching. Training is I want to illustrate the difference between teaching and training so you can catch it, okay? So let's divide this in half. Teaching is just about imparting knowledge. Blah, 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 blah. This is this, wah, 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 wah. Got it? We've all been in front of good teachers, but we're like, I'm trying to stay awake. I hope that's not you guys this morning. Okay? Now, the other issue, of course, is training is different than this. Training is preparing for a battle that's about to come. Boxers train. Fighters train. Athletes train. Why? Because there's a game on Sunday. Why? Because there's a fight in 8 weeks. You will train if you know a challenge is coming. If you told all of your students that they don't have to take a test, you're all in algebra class, trust me, you're all going to get A's, don't worry about it, there's no tests in this class. Just listen to me while I teach you algebra. How many people in that class do you think are actually going to learn algebra? Okay, 0. No test coming. No point in training. No point in paying attention. Here's a guy who lives in our city, or did at least one time. He's got a dojo there. His name is Royce Gracie. I don't know if you know him or not, but he won 4 of the first 5 Ultimate Fighting Championships. My son has been to his dojo. I remember the first time he went to this dojo, he came home and he had a huge lump on his hip. My son's a police officer. And I said, oh my gosh, and he would go and he'd get beat up again. And when he would come home, he would have this bumps and cuts on his face. And I used to say, why do you continue to go? He says, because it takes him a little bit longer each time to make me look this way. And as far as cops go, sometimes all fights are going to go to the ground at some point. And you just may have to hang on long enough for your backup to get there. So how long you can hang on is important. This guy, you think this guy trains? Yeah, why does he train? Because he's got a fight coming. It turns out the fight that's coming is what turns teaching into training. Because now you're taking it very seriously. And this guy takes his work very seriously. So I want to share with you a paradigm that I think would change the way we do youth ministry and change the way we even think about our own religious education. It's a train model. And it's not that hard to grasp. Of course, it's an acronym because we are all pastors at heart and we like acronyms. You do these 5 things, and I think everything changes. The first thing we have to do is we have to test young people. You got to find out where they're at. Everyone gets a test. This is the Crest Bar in my city. It's a biker bar, and I guarantee you there's a fight here every night. And if you're a trainee, a rookie who's got a field training officer, you're going to buy that call, because every fight call is going to send a training car, because that training car is going to get there, and the training officer is going to do this to see if you, as the rookie, can handle a bar fight. Because you got to test everybody. By the way, if you can't handle a bar fight, we're going to fire you, because we don't want to get killed later on. Every night when this turns into a nightmare, we're going to send a training car to see if the officer can pass the test. Now, it's not like we're trying to be mean. We're trying to, if nothing else, if he fails the first test, he'll start getting ready. He'll go back and he'll train. He'll be at that dojo getting beat up tomorrow because he wants to pass the test the next time. Tests are incredibly important for officers. They're also incredibly important for students. When I first get asked to work with youth groups, let me tell you what I do. I ask the pastor to introduce me as the local professor of philosophy at whatever big university is close by. And I will come in and role play as an atheist. I don't want the students to know who I am. Because in that hour, my goal is to deconvert everyone in the room. And you would be amazed at how fast it happens. Because as I start pushing these buttons as an atheist, the students cannot really respond. And all the joy you might have when you first show up, it turns into expressions that are not so good. Because at the end of this, we literally have students who, when I finally reveal that I'm actually a Christian, they'll come up and they'll say, thank God, I was starting to wonder if this was true. Wow. You mean to tell me, after all that we've done as parents, in 30 minutes, in a role-playing scenario, I could shake you that bad? Oh yeah, we've seen it over and over again. My son, who's 26, he's an excellent role player. When he does it, it's really powerful because he's closer to their age. It's very powerful. You have to test students the same way why do I start this way? I start this way because now they know their need. Did that feel good? No. Would you like to be in a situation where you could do better? Yes. Well, the next 6 weeks, we're going to train you to do better. And that's what we do. But they won't even pay attention if I don't show them how bad the situation is to begin with. So I test my students before I start. The second thing I have to do, of course, is you have to be ready to require something more than we typically require of our students. Hey, I was a youth pastor in a medium-sized church that was actually affiliated with the church plant that Troy did. He's been a part of a church that was a sister church of my church in California. And I can tell you, when I was first a youth pastor, I had a certain view of youth ministry, okay? And I did not require a lot from my students. I was happy if they just showed up. Have a good time here, want to come back and bring your friends. For me, youth ministry, as I was trying to think it out and plan it out, was all fun and games, okay? Youth ministry looked a lot like this: pizza, video games. Good stuff, important stuff, but that was all we were doing, really. Our students can handle so much more. I mean, think about what we ask of our students as parents. We got them in AP courses. They're getting ready for college. Oh my gosh, the bar is super high in other areas of their life, and you as a parent have no problem with the bar being high there. But when it comes to religious education, show up, we're happy. That's what's got to change. And you might think, well, how much can kids handle? I wanted to show you, this is my family when I first started as a youth pastor. I have my daughters and my sons. My sons came along first, and then we adopted 2 girls out of foster care. This is Annie and Mia. So we have a kind of a range of ages here. And my boys were in their, junior high years, 12 and 10, when my girls were still in elementary school. Well, they wouldn't stay with their affinity groups, they wouldn't go to Sunday school. They wanted to sit with their parents in the youth room with all the high schoolers. So I would let them come. And they would sit on the laps of all the high school students and just hang out with the high school students. And I was teaching the high school students at a college level because I wanted them to grab the evidences for Christianity. I made a case every week for Christianity, and I responded to all the atheist objections to Christianity, but I was doing it at a pretty high level. These kids, while they were hanging out with us, caught all of it. And I'm not targeting these guys. You'd be amazed at what young people they'll raise up. If we'll set the bar high, they'll jump that high bar. So all my sons and daughters, they caught all of this stuff. I call it ricochet apologetics, right? I wasn't aiming at them. It bounced off the other students and they caught it. So now that they're older, and here they are as adults or close to adults, they are all pretty solid. At least they know. Now look, if they're going to I always say this, if your students want to chase stupid stuff in college, that's on them. If they're chasing this stupid stuff on college because we didn't prepare them, that's on me. I've prepared them. Doesn't mean they're going to stay, because there's that third circle, right? That's the problem. But we want to require more of our students. Third thing, you got to give them something. You got to equip them with something. You got to give them a tool, give them the truth, arm them with the case so they know what the positive case is for Christianity. We got to do that. You wouldn't give police officers no weapons or no tools and go out and ask them to do their job. As a matter of fact, we give them a bunch of tools. And not only do we give them a bunch of tools, we give them a bunch of training on how to use the tools. We do 2 things. We give them tools and the training to use the tools. That's how you arm police officers. Well, think about it. We have students. How are we equipping them? How are we arming our students? What are we doing with these folks? I suggest we've got to inoculate them before they leave here. Don't isolate your students from the truth. Don't isolate your students from all the objections. Instead, a flu inoculation is what? You give them a little bit of the flu, and then later on when they're exposed to all the flu, they've already been inoculated. because they saw it early. They got it early under your supervision. What we're doing with inoculation theory in the church is we're trying to give our young people the truth early. Don't be afraid of philosophy. This passage, sometimes Christians will look and say, oh, we don't want to get involved in secular philosophy. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary principles of this world, rather than according to Christ. This is not an admonition for us to avoid teaching our students philosophy. It's an admonition to teach them philosophy according to Christ and not get caught up in the philosophy and tradition of men. So I'm going to teach my students philosophy and logic and all the evidences for why Christianity is true and why atheism can't be true. And when we're done, they'll be inoculated. And I'm going to begin in my care by making sure they're aware of every atheist text that's popular in the culture. I'm going to assign this as reading because I'm going to be talking about it forever. For 4 years you're with me, all I did was talk about these kinds of texts. I'm not going to stop there, but I want them to hear the objections from me before they hear them from a professor. Does that make sense? And then, of course, they're fully inoculated. Of course, I've got to solve the problems I raise, so of course I'm going to do that in Scripture, and I'm also going to supplement that with all kinds of great texts that are out there that you guys should be on your bookshelf. If these works are not on your bookshelf, you're not going to be able to make a case for what you believe either. Of course, the best text you can buy is this one, right there, which you can get out in the hall after. No, never mind. Okay. But my point is, we want to be able to prepare our students to make an affirmative defense for what it is they believe. And when we do that, I think we end up in a better place, because we prepared our students. So someone like Gabriel here who said this, I thought was pretty powerful. I was in several youth groups in high school and unfortunately found that youth group was too soft. We played a lot of games, had a lot of fun retreats, but rarely learned about the fundamentals of faith and why we believe what we believe and what it is that we do believe. Now that I'm in college, my faith is under constant scrutiny, always being tested by scientific concepts and the secular slant of most universities. I wish I had been equipped with a more solid justification for my faith, knowing how to answer the tough questions, how to respond to arguments, how to stand firm in what feels like a storm against my spirituality. We have to help our students. We have to equip them. We have to arm them. That's why yesterday, when we did our conference, what did we talk about? We began at the bottom with truth. Then we take a step up from that. We want to talk about God's existence. Why should we trust the Bible? And then why do we think Jesus actually rose from the dead? That 4-step process is what I want to teach young people so they can defend it.